On this week's show, Cliff and I load up the car with all the camping gear that we can muster. Because you know what? It's camping season. Plus, rules again coming out from the CFL and already the first round of cuts. That's up next. And welcome to Alouettes Flightdeck, the premier Montreal Alouettes web media show presented by Royal Retros, where you don't need a time machine in order to get some sweet, sweet throwback merch. Head over to royalretros.com, use the code Flightdeck at checkout, and you will save 10% off your first order. I'm Tim Capper. You can follow me on X or Blue Sky at Repact. That's REPPACT.
And I'm Cliffy D. If you like, you can also follow me on X and on Blue Sky over at Cliffy D.
I was waiting for you to give a pause too, just for
pause for consideration.
Yeah, well, or suspense.
Ooh.
But I mean, if they don't know your handle already.
Well, shoot, then I have done a terrible job of marketing myself and this show, because my goodness, I mean, I've always said Cliffy D is not just a name; it's a lifestyle. I mean,
but that didn't say that on your license plate. There, it just says Cliffy D. Je me souviens. It doesn't say it's a lifestyle, unless you've changed it all of a sudden.
Well, that would involve having to move and get another state's license plate or province's license plate, which I'm not doing that. I'm very happy being here in Quebec, and I was born here, and God willing, I will die here.
Are we allowed to? Is it against the law to tamper with not the stuff below the numbers? Because you put people, because we don't use in Quebec, we don't use the registration stickers anymore.
Right.
People do, I think, have put either Quebec or Canadian flags in those spots. Couldn't you change it? It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
Oh, you know what? I'm not about to find out. Let some other chump figure it out.
Oh, come on, Cliff. Since when do you want to F around and find out? Come on. FAFO.
Oh, I do plenty of that. Thank you very much.
I'm glad it's camp season. I really am.
No more off season.
Something brand new, really, if you think about it. And I said it during Flight Deck Live. And again, I'm going to say it again. I know you and I already talked about we will get better. Damn you, Mother Nature, for winding. Not winning. Well, Mother Nature did win, actually. But winding, we did not expect that wind tunnel. That's like being at the corner of Cavendish and St. Catherine Street. Cavendish and Sherbrooke. That's a wind tunnel. You know what I'm talking about. And anybody who in the Montreal area, if you know, you know.
Yeah, or pretty much anywhere in the downtown core as well. I mean, with the massive skyscrapers that dot the Montreal skyline. I mean, there is huge potential for wind tunnel effect there as well. And foolish us, we did not take that into consideration that Quebec City, while we weren't surrounded by any skyscrapers or anything like that, Stad Telus definitely does have, it's kind of recessed into the ground. So It does create sort of a wind tunnel effect as well. And we just didn't take that into consideration. And lo and behold, Mother Nature decided to F with our premiere episode. So mea culpa, our bad. These things happen, folks. As the great poet Andre 3000 once coined, you can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather.
I was wondering where you were going to go with that one.
Or was it Big Boy? I don't know which member of Outcast sang that, but anyways, my point stands.
Yes. And hey, if you didn't like part of the show, did you like our new Flight Deck Live branding? There's a positive. There was a positive for the show, and I hope everybody likes it. As I said in the show, which you may not have heard, the camp really itself, Cliff, it's this year specifically. It's a lot of new beginnings, and it's the beginning of the end for a few things too. It really is, and it's not necessarily talking about players in particular, but all the stuff that and obviously we still got a little ways to go with what we're going to be talking about with the league and their rules that they came out with just the other day. That's just the start of it. so it's the beginning of the end of. Do I say it's at the beginning of the end of the CFL as we currently know it? I guess we can say that's fair to say. And I'm not trying to be negative on this, but it's very possible that, next year, the CFL itself is going to be it could be the 2.0 CFL, the modern day 2.0. And I joked around and I said, hell, the way that this league's going, they're going to release a new logo for next year. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what the line is on that. Do you have an over under on that one? But I don't know.
Hey, but listen, with all the changes that have come about, I mean, I feel like a new CFL logo isn't such a crazy thought to think. I mean, do we need it? Absolutely not. Did we need this current logo at the time? No, not really. I mean, I think the CFL logo, I mean, between the helmet logo with the maple leaf as well as the football with the half Canadian flag, like those two logos were fire, as the kids say. This current logo is
on
there. It's there. It's a logo. I mean, what do you want? Yeah. So do you want to make change for the sake of change, or do you want to make change because, well, hell, we're going to change everything else that people know about the CFL? Why not the logo? It would be a little on brand for the CFL to do that. I mean, it's solving a problem that doesn't exist, which, again, unfortunately, the league does seem to be very, very adept at doing, is creating problems that didn't exist and then trying to solve them. So I guess a new logo would just be par for the course at that point.
Well, it's like teams wearing black uniforms to wear black uniforms, as you said, to change just to make change.
Yeah.
So,
agreed.
Anyways, 27, a lot of things leading up to that. Camp started in Quebec City at PEPS at Stade Telus in Quebec City. For my first time there, actually, I don't think I'm going to be spending more time in Quebec City over these next 2 weeks than I have ever spent in Quebec City. But being at PEPS for the first time, Stade Telus, it's not what I expected. I guess it's the angle that when we came up to the stadium itself, the building that houses the indoor field and stuff like that. I swear that the stands that say Laval across them were bigger than what they were. But now I can see the challenges on how they're able and then they're able to bring in 20,000 people into this stadium. How they do it is beyond me, considering that those stands are just absolutely. You want to be careful. You don't want to move over too quickly, or because if you do, then you're going to get easily get something in your butt. So because of those wooden seats,
benches. Let's call it what they are. They are benches, folks.
They really are. Yeah, benches, and not concrete, but gravel at your feet. So,
yeah. I mean,
unless you're on the other side. These are the main stands, I think, when you're first coming in.
Right.
But still, brand new beginning for Yal's first year in Quebec City. As we've mentioned before, it's for an entire camp. This is the farthest distance ever from the city of Montreal. We were joking. Cliff and I were joking. Hey, well, why don't next year let's have it in Rivière-du-Loup? Let's have it in. We can go to Chicoutimi. I think the one positive that you and I came up with when it came to Rivière-du-Loup is that since the Alouettes, seem to be, I guess, Eastern Canada's team, Atlantic Canada, why not branch out into the New Brunswick English and Francophone market?
Yeah, foster that relationship. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why not? Because Rivière-du-Loup is a stone's throw from Edmundston, New Brunswick, which, again, this is sort of the gateway, if you will, into New Brunswick. So maybe that's it. Maybe if you really, it's one thing to be Quebec's CFL football team, which I know is the goal for the Montreal Alouettes, but why stop there? As you said, why not also be the Atlantic team? Just if not by default, then just by sheer will and determination of just trying to win those fans over as well, to make it clear that, listen, this is the easternmost CFL team there is. why not support them? Why not support the Montreal Alouettes? Because technically they are the closest team to you, at least until you get your own team, if you ever get your own team.
Well, I think it's funny too. Funny as they being Quebec's team, and I know we put out a graphic last week talking about the slight modification changes when it came to the logo itself and what was being used as primary and secondary. The Owls kind of, I don't want to say they did an about face, but they made a clarification, I will say, that the M bird is still the primary logo. The one in the circle, the crest, is still a secondary logo, but, and this is what goes to your thing that you just said, Cliff, they've retired the logo that says Alouette Montréal. It's now retired. So that version of the branding from 2019 is gone, so to speak. Now, you look at all the logos, to be fair, Cliff, I think you'll agree with me. I'm sure everybody else listening, Alouettes Nation, or CFL fans across the country and across the world, very few primary logos in the CFL actually state the city and the team name.
Yeah, I think... yeah, I guess BC, I guess technically would be the only one when you think about it. Even then, that's still just BC. Like, yes, they are the BC Lions, but I think now it's all about the symbolism, if you will. It really is. A logo is a logo. It doesn't need word marking. It doesn't need anything like that. So
I think baseball's done it.
And I think also too, after 7 years of this particular logo, I think people know who it is. They know what it represents. You know, it's a Montreal Alouettes logo at this point. At this point in the game, if you're a CFL fan, you know this is the Montreal Alouettes. So I don't think I guess they feel that maybe having the words Alouettes Montreal or Montreal Alouettes is kind of redundant. So, and I guess that just speaks to the branding as you know. Again, there's still people that are still not fans of this particular logo. Some people absolutely adore it. Some people, believe it or not, are kind of in the middle. And in any event, this is the logo. It's here to stay for a good while yet. I'm sure of that. So, you know, like it or hate it or love it, it's here to stay as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about camp. I thought it was cool. Met you. We actually, the wife and I took via rail after learning there is actually more than just the ocean going from Halifax to Montreal. That there is a train 5 times a day to Quebec City. So we took the train, met you and our executive producer, and finished our trip up to Quebec City. I will say props to the members of Alouettes Nation that did show up. And it was some long-time veteran supporters of the team that we were able to see when we got there.
Yeah, because a lot of the fans that I know that are in Montreal itself would absolutely love to go to training camp, but Quebec City is just too much of a schlep for them. I get it. I understand. I mean, even though there are multiple ways to get to Quebec City from Montreal, plane, train, automobile, there's, you know, a bus even. I mean, there's no shortage of ways to get to Quebec City from Montreal. It's just the idea that it's about a 3-hour commute, if you will. There are some fans that will love going to training camp every day, and they're not able to because it's just too far away. They can't justify, say, getting a hotel for the 2 weeks that camp is going to be, and so on. And I get that. I appreciate that sentiment. I know a lot of the true diehard Montreal Alouette fans that live in Montreal aren't probably not going to go to camp at all, or maybe just the one day like certain fans did on this past Sunday. Yeah, I get it. I appreciate, the fact that, they're honest about it. And I think the Alouettes, I think they acknowledge that as well. But at the same time, in the idea of trying to promote this team as Quebec's football team, this is their reasoning. They've got to go out and they've got to, get the word out, put the people out there. And I'm sure they're hoping that, fans of the Rouge et Or of Laval are going to come and check out, this team that's using their facilities. They're hoping that people in the Quebec region are going to come for a day or two, or, attend a few sessions of camp as well, because it's basically happening right in their backyard. So it's a change. Listen, at the end of the day, just tell us where camp is going to be, and we'll be there here at the Flightdeck. We will be there no matter what. We can't attend every day, obviously, same as these folks as well, because of work commitments and whatnot. But if you make the effort to at least go to camp, definitely respect to anyone who does that, because I know the team appreciates it. I know the players, the coaches, everybody that's there, they've got a job to do. They're basically, it's basically a job interview for the next 2 weeks to be a member of this organization. And the fact that you're coming there to show your support for them, I know it means the world to them. So, even if you just make it to one camp session, that's pretty awesome as far as they're concerned. And I'll say the same thing. I mean, if you truly love this football team and you want to support them, that's the best way to do it. And hey, what better opportunity to get to know these new players than to watch them do their thing in camp. Like, that's the one thing I've always said about training camp, is that this is an opportunity to see, whether it's by free agency or by the CFL draft or what have you, like, to see the new faces of the Montreal Alouettes. The best place to do it and get to know them up close and personal is at training camp.
Yeah, and I think that the team, from what I'm understanding, the team is really leaning on the experience of the people who run PEPS and STAD TELUS for the camp itself. It's the turf is basically brand new at the stadium. It's installed in 23. My only gripe really itself was it's funny to say, somebody who knew there is one at Percival Molson, but having the 5-lane track, it's kind of somewhat similar to what it is over in Edmonton, over Commonwealth, but it's done differently. You're not as close, but you get to be there at the end of the day. Needless to say, either way, once the practice is over. And it is a nice facility from what we saw. Worst comes to worst, if there is a really major rain day, they do have an indoor field where they would be able to have practice. Kind of similar, I guess you could say, because I haven't seen it. I've only seen it. You've been in it, Cliff, for what they have over at Commonwealth in Edmonton. Something similar, I would imagine.
Yes.
But it got started. The guys came ready. And I think what really set it into motion, really, Cliff, was the pregame speech by Davis Alexander. And I'm sure people saw that on social media. That got me hyped. That really did. And I think Davis has really, he's come off his injury. He's healed 100%. And he's really taking, not to say he didn't, but this year coming in and how he is trying to even more take that leadership role. He basically was telling these guys, you got 3, you're here. You're here. Take advantage of your opportunity, because right now, currently, you only have 3 days to make an impression to stay in camp. And a lot of these guys really did come to play.
Yeah. And I think that does speak to his leadership qualities and how he's grown, even in a year, when you sit and think about it. Because it was last year he was named the starter of this organization. And I don't want to say the pressure got to him necessarily, but I think the injury that he suffered during his offseason training last year, unfortunately, bled into the year and actually did become a much bigger story than it was ever meant to be. And even sort of hanging overhead with the Grey Cup as well.
Yeah.
But I think now Davis has acknowledged it. He's accepted, what had happened, how the year turned out in 2025. And he's already banked it. He's already put it in the vault, leave it there. The past is in the past. We're looking forward. And that was and how he led that first day of camp. And then even speaking with him afterwards, like, new year, new me kind of thing. I think that's sort of like the thought. And to the point where you always be like, injury? What injury? I didn't have an injury. And just, it's that mindset, just be laser focused on what's ahead of you. Don't worry about what happened in the past, because it's in the past. You can't change it. So I'm really excited to see what Davis Alexander does as he reassumes the leadership role that's been given to him. And there's no question in my mind that he will come out guns a-blazing. And it's going to start, well, it's already started in a sense now, but when he gets out there for preseason and even that first regular season home game, I fully expect to see the very best of Davis Alexander.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And that's, I think that's still the question too now, is that how much will the DA play in the preseason? That's the other question too, because, you know, even when we were talking with Tyson Philpott, you know, he kind of had an idea of how much he's going to be playing in both of these two games coming up. I think a lot of them say they want to ball out, even just for a little bit at home, which I completely get.
Sure, absolutely. But you got to think to yourself though, this is going to be a long season. I mean, basically from mid-May to mid-November. That's a long time. There's a lot of racetrack in front of you. So, you know, pacing yourself is going to be key. I get it. I totally get where Tyson's coming from. And let's not forget, the preseason was where we got to see what Davis Alexander could do. And I don't think a lot of people were paying attention back then, but now they'll be paying attention because he's QB1, QB fun.
Exactly. What stood out to you? Obviously, we have some guys on this roster currently still that have some amazing names, and I know we talked about it a little bit in our post-draft show 2 weeks ago. Anything really stood out? I know it's funny. We know how Davis can throw, as an example. For me, and everybody knows I'm an offensive guy. I've been slowly trying to see what they're doing on the defensive side too. But it's funny to see. I was looking at how each of the quarterbacks at the time, we had 5 quarterbacks on the roster when we were there, how each of them threw the ball. David, we know what Davis is like. Yeah. They're almost like, you know, they're like dimes. If you, Cliff, were to give a number 2 to the best ball thrown in camp on Saturday, who would you say would be your number 2? Because I'm leaning towards Crum for being my number 2. But who would you say was your second best thrower?
Yeah, I think Dustin Crum. I mean, from what I was able to see of him, I mean, definitely did not look out of place whatsoever. I wouldn't say he's a carbon copy of Davis Alexander, and that's not the reason why we got him. He plays a very similar style to Davis Alexander, so yeah. It makes total sense. He should be able to fit into this Anthony Calvillo offense with little to no problem. I have absolute confidence in that. I guess, yeah, it's not like I saw anything truly outstanding throw-wise from the other quarterbacks not named Davis Alexander, but I guess if I had to pick one, then yeah, I guess Dustin Crum by default would be the one. I mean, these guys, this was their opportunity to show out. And day one is always so funny when it comes to training camp because
I know
people ask you right away, like, what do you think of the team? What do you think of the team? I'm like, it's day one. I mean, like, what do you think you're going to see everything on day one? Impossible. It really is.
Oh, I agree.
There's drills. There's getting the kinks worked out. There's things like that. Like there's day one, unfortunately, is not the best representation of what you're going to see. I mean, by the time we get to camp this coming weekend, I think after that session, we'll have a much better idea of what we can expect out of the players that are there.
Mm-hmm.
As Davis talked about, though, I mean, you basically had 3 days to showcase what you can do. And
right.
I think that was the opportunity for those quarterbacks, those other quarterbacks not named Davis Alexander, to show what they can do. And as we'll discuss in momentarily, is that some guys were able to, I guess, show some good things, and some didn't show enough.
Yeah, and as I said, by the time we get to camp this week, there'll be at least 10 players. It'll be 10 players different than what we saw this past week. And by the way, I am going to give props to the Montreal Alouettes organization for supplying physical camp rosters.
Well, you know why? I'll tell you why.
Yeah, but it's also one of the things that was necessary in my opinion. Why not do something? Yes, I understand there's a cost. I get that. But you go from year one, I think that's the last time it was done, year one in Trois-Rivières to now, in order to produce them again. Especially when the rosters on the Owls webpage are not up to date. Now, I'm not saying that's their fault. We've heard things that they may not be in charge of the roster pages that may be on the CFL. I'll leave it at that. But this was a welcomed thing to be handed because we are able to see who was who.
Agreed. And that's the thing. If you're not going to update the website, and that's the thing, I get going to paper, or paper is going to paper things is like the way of the dodo bird, essentially. Like it's a dying, if not completely dead art. But if you're going to do that, then you better make sure your website is up to date. And unfortunately, as the Canadian Football League and their teams have shown, that doesn't seem to be a priority in the slightest. Because if you go to the website, the Alouettes website, and go to the roster, you'll see quite a few of the names are on there, but no numbers assigned. Like there's so many zeros on there. Like the name is there, like they're listed and their positions listed, but not their actual number. So like you're trying to get people excited about these players and you want to see who's doing what. Kind of helps to have an idea of who's wearing number 22, who's wearing number 49, who's wearing this, and so on. I mean, certain numbers we knew right off the hop. I mean, like we know that Travis Tice changed his number from 30 to 5. We know Jared Stearns is number 89. Like some of the newer players, like the free agent acquisitions and whatnot, we knew those numbers. That's fine. But like, for example, like the CFL draft class.
Yeah.
We had no idea what their numbers were going to be. So how are we supposed to get excited about these guys? How are we supposed to, share our thoughts on that without knowing what number they're wearing? So having this is absolutely necessary. So if you're not going to have the website up to date, which again, in the year of our Lord 2026, how the hell do you not have an up-to-date website? If that's on the CFL, so be it. Personally, if I was a member of the team, I'd be raising hell, quite frankly, and I'd be like, you got to get this updated. Come on. If they're not in charge of updating the website, find out who is within the CFL and get on their case, because
hold on, I got something for you.
Go ahead.
They've listened to us, because you go to, and this again, props to them. This is no slight. Props to the team, because you go and you click the roster link as of I've only checked this today. You get that same exact sheet you currently have in your hand as a PDF.
It's not that hard, people. It really is not that hard.
No, and it's well now for tomorrow. For tomorrow, will it be updated?
I would hope so. I mean, that's
so too.
That's the thing. I mean, especially like certain players are being cut. Okay, highlight, delete, save. I mean, it's
tough when you're homered. It's tough when you're Homer Simpson. I tell you.
Where's the any key? Yes. So all this to say, information is key. If you want people to get excited about, say, the draft choices, if you want to be excited about the new players that are going to be a part of this organization, that's how you do it. Like now, I know, like for example, Shakespeare Lewis or Louis. I'm sorry, we didn't have a chance to meet with him to clarify whether it's Lewis or Louis, but he's rocking number 22. Oh, we will. Absolutely will. And so on. Like there's changes abound, and we need to know who they are. But yes, 100% props to the Alouettes for going to everybody that was in the stands and offering them the roster. Fantastic. If you're not going to update the website, if you're not going to provide a PDF on the website to download or what have you, then this is what you got to do. And I will give full marks to the team, their organization, for doing that, because that is absolutely crucial.
Besides the team, we had the premier of a new defensive coach, AJ Gass. It's funny that you and I were musing about certain things that we have seen over the last couple of years on the defensive drills on day one that we didn't see. we talk about changes and new beginnings and stuff like that. That's basically that's what it was. From all the drills that we saw, I don't think they didn't really, nothing really stood out. Mind you, again, it was day one, but maybe there was a slight change of what needed to be done because as you and I both know, and it's probably one of the coolest drills and most amusing drills to see is that special teams drill when it comes to trying to block a punt. We didn't see that on Sunday. Maybe we'll see that on the glorified intra-squad practice. That's what I'm going to call it, by the way, for Sunday. Because, by the way, as a reminder, yes, there's practice at 4:30, but it's not an intra-squad game. Anything really stood out to you that was surprising before we talk about the players and then we talk about the cuts that were just released today?
What I thought was interesting, and again, I'm sure the argument will be made that it's because it's a long camp and there's plenty of time to do this. We didn't see really too many one-on-ones in the sense of like the offense and defense running actual football plays. Like we saw lots of drills. We saw lots of, things tailored to each, player category. Like the quarterbacks went and they did these drills, the running backs did these drills, the receivers did these, and so on and so forth. Like every position group got to do their drills, and the coaches got to be able to work with them, and you basically got an idea of what to expect out of these coaches, from day one all the way till the end of your journey, however long that may be. But to not get some actual, and it could just be a simple matter of these guys are still learning the playbook. These guys are still not ready to learn the formations and whatnot. So that could very well be the possibility, but just to not have guys truly line up one-on-one, I was a little surprised not to see that, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that, by now I'm sure they've had multiple opportunities in order to do so, but it could just be a simple matter of just not wanting to show off too much. Because let's not forget, there are fans there. There are media there. I don't think there's spies. I don't think anyone's from another organization is going to come and try to take pictures or try to get an idea of what the drills are and things like that. And even if you were trying to film, the team would discourage you from doing so for that reason. But I was just a little surprised not to see the ones and the twos of offense and defense line up even just for a little bit. But okay, again, it's day one. That's one of the reasons why, if people were to ask me, well, what did you think about day one? That's what I'd say. It's like, yeah, they did drills, and they're on the field for the first time in several months.
Yeah, there were some nice routes, by the way. We don't want to let people think that nothing happened on day one at camp in Quebec City.
No.
There were a couple of routes run by I don't remember which wide receiver it was, that basically shook the defensive player out of his boots. He broke his ankle, so to speak.
There was a couple of them. Tariq Owens, for example, son of NFL legend Terrell Owens. My goodness, a very fluid route runner. I mean, he wasn't breaking ankles per se, but I mean, everything he did was effortless. And I think Davis Alexander is going to have a lot of fun throwing to this guy because he can move basically in a phone booth practically. That's just that kind of fluidity to him. Who else kind of caught my eye? It's funny, Jarrett Stearns did not look out of place, obviously. There's a couple times where the offense was lining up and you saw Stearns in there with guys like Cole Speaker, Tyler Snead, Tyson Philpott, and so on. And that's essentially what you want to see. And I like that. I like the idea of Jarrett Stearns coming in and not looking out of place. I'm really excited to see some of these other receivers get their crack at a chance of making this team. I mean, let's not forget, there's no Austin Mack anymore.
No.
There's no James Fletcher. There, as far as receivers go, yeah, you still got your superstars like Snead, Philpott, Speaker, and so on, but there is opportunity to crack this roster. There's no Charleston Rambo either. I forgot to mention that. There is opportunity, though, for a receiver. to come on and be a part of this organization, to assume that spot on the team, that opportunity is there. It's just a matter of who's going to step forward and claim that. And I tell you what, I like what I see so far. Like receiver wise, I just can't wait for Davis Alexander to be slinging the rock to these guys, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. As much as, this Alouettes team is an absolute beast on defense, we saw what Davis Alexander was able to do before the injury took over. This offense was just firing on all cylinders, and the potential of great things to happen is absolutely there, especially with Anthony Calvillo now as the play caller this year. I think he's going to want to open things up as much as possible too. I think he's going to want to try to take young Davis and really mold him into a superstar. Like really, he's a star. There's no question about that. Now is to get that next level up and truly become a superstar, like a true household name in the Canadian Football League. And for that, you need absolutely amazing receivers. And I tell you what, there is definitely a lot to like here. I know, just one day, a very small sample size, but there was definitely a lot to like.
And the defense too. On a lot of these routes too, there were some great plays and great defense by some of these guys. And I mean, it's, it was basically a 3-day, as I said, a 3-day trial for a lot of these guys to show that you can make the full roster per se, and they just look really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's exciting. A lot of people one of the questions that people are asking about is Marc-Antoine Dequoy. With him taking his retirement, who's going to take over? Well, let me tell you, you've got Jonathan Sutherland, you've got Nate Beauchemin, you've got Arthur Hamlin, and right now, any of those three can step in. And from what I saw of those three, because that was one position I was definitely taking a look at, see, would they all be on the field at the same time, or would they all be taking turns in the in the safety spot and maybe lining up at other parts of the secondary? But yeah, I'm very impressed with what I saw. No surprise when it came to Arthur Hamlin. I mean, he was filling in that role when Dequoy got injured last year. Did not look out of place whatsoever. Nate Beauchemin definitely was a little bit more of a special teams guru as opposed to really stepping in into the safety spot. But when he did, also did not look out of place as well, which is amazing considering last year was his rookie season. And now you've got Agent Zero, as far as I'm concerned, in Jonathan Sutherland. I think he's going to be a game changer without question. Whether he's safety or he appears elsewhere in the secondary, he's got that game-breaking ability, and I'm very excited to see him in a real game time situation. It's as I've always said, everybody looks amazing when you're playing against your teammates, but starting with the preseason, I'm really excited to see what Sutherland can do against a true opponent, because there's a lot to like with him. There's definitely a lot. I see a lot of potential in him being a big part of this Montreal Alouettes defense in 2026.
Exactly. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to players, and we talked about before, we can like what we've seen from some of these guys, but there is a cut down date. And unfortunately for a lot of these guys, it is just 3 days into the camp. And that's what we found out today. The full list today. We were talking about before about quarterbacks and stuff like that. Well, the Alouettes did shed 2 of our quarterbacks. So we're now down to 3. I had forgotten about 1, but we're now down to 3. Any surprises on who we let go? And as I said, talk about the quarterbacks themselves. We did let go quarterback EJ Perry, who had been basically on the practice roster for most of the 1+ seasons that he was here with us, and also quarterback Dressler Wynn. Any other surprises? As I said, it was only 1 day that we could see them, but any other surprises?
Aside from those 2, I think the most notable name would be Isaac Gillardet. He was a draft pick last year. Was brought in for a bit, but I think when he was released to go back to school, and I guess the thought was, okay, go back to school, play some youth sports football, and then come back and try to win a job the next year. And I guess just with the receivers that are currently in camp right now, even being a national receiver, it wasn't enough, simply put. So, also to note, they weren't cut, but they were added to the suspended list. Zachary Hood and Harrison Daly, who were draft picks this year. So I am curious if those guys are planning to go back to school or if it's just another reason altogether why they're put on the suspended list. Typically, that is usually the case, is when you're on a suspended list, more often than not is because as a first-year player or a draft pick, the idea is that you'd be going back to university to continue your education and get another year of university ball under your belt. So could that be the case with these two? I guess we'll find out in time. But yeah, aside from that, a lot of the names that were listed are just names that, sorry to say, no one jumped out at me. Let's put it that way. Not to put down their skills or anything like that, but it's just I didn't see anything from them day one that said to me, okay, this guy's not going anywhere, kind of thing. Like it's just, and that's the thing. You bring in camp bodies. You sometimes that's where you find those diamonds in the rough, right? Is someone that you didn't know this guy from a hole in the wall, but he comes in and he blows the doors off of everybody. And it's like, okay, he can stay. He's good. He's got something there. And unfortunately, with these guys, I guess in the 3 days the camp's been going on, they just didn't have enough. They didn't have what it took to warrant sticking around.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, most of the guys that were released were Americans. Less those ones that were added to the suspended list, and obviously, as you mentioned about Gary Dietz, he was a Canadian.
It is interesting to note, though, the two quarterbacks that were released, E.J. Perry and Dresser Wynn, simply because now the Alouettes are down to 3 quarterbacks in camp right now.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that they would be adding another quarterback? Because
I think so. This
last year,
but I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Last year, they rolled with 4. They had 3 quarterbacks and 1 on the practice roster, or depending on the 6-game list because of injury. So will the Alouettes be adding onto it? I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Shea Patterson. One play, unfortunately, everybody's going to remember Shea Patterson for that one play.
Oh yeah, and Rider fans are still in their glory over it. But and hey, listen, fair play to them. I mean, that our one can make the argument that was the reason why they won the Grey Cup. And listen, if you truly believe that, then that's certainly your point. I mean, I think there's many factors, but could Shea Patterson find himself back with his team? Maybe. I guess truly anything's possible. Or does Danny have something in the works? Is there one of the quarterbacks that are on the negotiation list? Perhaps, maybe it's just a simple matter of getting their passport and getting a visa so that they can come and try to win a job with Montreal Alouettes.
Yeah,
always a possibility too. So we'll see what happens. But right now, the Alouettes feel very confident in Davis Alexander, obviously, and Dustin Crum, as well as Anthony Brown, who also played in the NFL for a couple of teams. I guess what they saw of Brown was clearly enough because he wasn't shown the door. So, and I guess you have to have at the very least 3 quarterbacks in camp. So, I not that there's, all of a sudden going to be a great quarterback competition. It's obvious this is Davis Alexander's team. It's obvious Dustin Crum was brought in and they feel he's extremely, capable of being that backup quarterback that Davis needs and that plays with his style and so on. And Anthony Brown will be there if needed. So, but do you want to take a chance with just 3 quarterbacks, or do you want to add somebody else? And with Danny, he moves in silence. If there's somebody out there that he thinks can make an impact, he'll go out and get them. So we'll just see what shakes up, and maybe by the time we get to Quebec City this coming weekend, maybe there will be a 4th quarterback in the lineup.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, because usually by the first weekend we get the idea of the guys that will be playing in the first preseason game at least, and obviously with the Victoria Day weekend coming up, Monday technically, is the beginning of game week. So
it is.
Don't forget, we are on social media. You can find us anywhere, guys. You know that. You can find us on X or Blue Sky, over at Alouettes Flightdeck, over on Facebook, over at Alouettes Flightdeck Pod, and on Instagram and YouTube over at Alouettes Flightdeck. Speaking of YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button so you know that when we do go live or a new show becomes available. Because now with the new season of Flightdeck Live, you got to know when we're going to go, when we happen to go live, whether it be on YouTube, Facebook, or on X. Also, looking to look at any of our shows from the past 10 plus seasons, head over to www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. If you're looking for merch, head over to our shop over at flightdeckgear.ca. Look at that beaut. And again, want to thank our presenting sponsor in Royal Retros, where if you go to royalretros.com and use the code Flightdeck at checkout, you'll save 10% off your first order. So, as it normally tends to be, whether it be the first right after camp does, or whether it be within the first week, the CFL releases the new rules or the updated rules for that particular season. And that's exactly what they did. After dropping that bombshell about the playoffs for 27 on draft day, which we're not the only ones who think that was made absolute no sense. That's what we've seen as of late.
Mm-hmm.
The league did finally give some clarification on some things. And I think one of the bigger things, Cliff, that we really a lot of people wanted to know was what was going to happen after, after the 3-minute warning when it came to the play clock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because again, if you folks have been living under a rock, the CFL is switching to a 35-second play clock as opposed to the traditional 20-second play clock that we've grown up on, known and loved, and so on and so forth. However, it's not completely gone, the 20-second clock. In fact, the last 3 minutes of each half will be run with the 20-second clock in mind. So I don't know if it was a backpedal to like some of the rule changes, or if it's just a matter of trying to incorporate something. You're trying to incorporate something new, but at the same time, keep the elements of what makes a CFL game so exciting. Because we always talk about the last 3 minutes of the game are arguably the most exciting, the most riveting as far as, watching CFL games go. Mm-hmm. And you can make the argument for the first half as well. Also very exciting as well, because you're operating under that same premise. So with that in mind, the CFL has elected to keep the 20-second clock for the last 3 minutes of each half. And I think that's great. I think that's hopefully going to help soften the blow for a lot of these fans, because a lot of people were truly up in arms when it came to like the rule changes that are being proposed for both 2026 and 2027. Although I feel it's more the rules that are going to be changing in 2027 that I think people are really in their feelings about. And I get it. I understand the sentiment there when it comes to that. So maybe would you consider this sort of an olive branch, if you will, or at least a sort of a soft landing in a sense? At least it sort of helps keep the idea of what makes the CFL game so exciting is anything that can happen in those last 3 minutes, and you really do have to pay attention, and not just for the second half, but the first half as well.
I don't know, because when they first announced the change to the 35-second clock, Cliff, is that I think they left the open to keeping the 20-second clock, because they was never saying that they were going to get rid of it completely. They just had to decide what they were going to do or how they were going to implement it. Mm-hmm. The first test will obviously be, I guess what we could say, is the first preseason game of the CFL, which will be this coming Monday. We'll see how that works out. So if you have CFL Plus, make sure if you want to watch the game, by all means, that'll be the place to watch it and see how it works. Mm-hmm. I think again, it's a work in progress, this stuff, because we said at the top of the show, a change for change's sake. Let's see how this 35-second clock works for for the 54 minutes that it's not being used. The 35 seconds for the 54 minutes that is being used versus the 6 minutes that's not being used. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And then you talk about some of the other things too. It's like oh no, we had, how many overtime games have there been in CFL history? And now all of a sudden they want to make. I mean, I felt that our overtime rules were the best option that you had out there, despite the back and forth, which we've seen before in the NCAAs, which is kind of what they're adopting. Is like, now there's going to be no more ties in the CFL. There really haven't been that many ties in the CFL. I mean, I know the Alouettes have had 2 over the last 5, I think.
And do you remember our sentiment after those games? Do you remember how pissed off we were at, I think it was the Alouettes game in Calgary that ended in a tie? I remember that being one of our more spirited, shall we say, episodes of Flightdeck Live, because we didn't lose, but we didn't win, and I think that's how a lot of fans feel. Is the expression of a tie is like kissing your sister. It counts, but not really. And
I get it.
And I think this is actually, I personally think this is the way it should be, because the NCAA absolutely has it right when it comes to doing this. I mean, a lot of people consider this more like a shootout in hockey or penalty kicks in soccer or anything like that. But
everybody remembers the reaction when the shootout was announced for the NHL. I mean, that's along the same lines of announcing that they're going to reduce 10 yards. They're getting rid of the 55.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with the tweak. There weren't that many ties really to begin with, and same thing with, the amount of overtime games that there are in the CFL. Sure,
let's not forget the core elements of the CFL overtime hasn't changed at all. It's still too many games to be played. Yeah. It's just that now there's as you said, a tweak to the end. If it's still tied after the 2 mini games, which let's be honest, more often than not, it really, a tie isn't such a common thing in the Canadian Football League. It's still annoying, but you're right. It's really not that common. But at least this now takes all the guesswork. It takes all, now we have a definitive winner and a definitive loser, which when it comes to the playoff format next year, a lot of people were thinking about could an 16 and 2 team make the playoffs? This kind of eliminates that, because now you're going to have, you're either going to 18 and 0, 0 and 18, or somewhere in between. There's no ties. There's no what ifs. There's no that one point that could completely throw a monkey wrench into everybody's plans. This, as far as I'm concerned, this is the way. I really like this, and I've seen it in the NCAA. It's actually kind of thrilling to watch both these teams go for that 2-point convert and have to make it. I love it. I think that this tweak was one that absolutely positively had to be made, and I think it sort of settles the ambiguity of what a tie brings. At least now you've got a concrete winner and a concrete loser.
Yeah. It's, again, I'm fine with it. I'm to me, it's really no big deal. You and I talked about one of these other rules too, is that the automatic review on a turnover on downs. And I was like, well, really, what was the point? I mean, so the replay center is going to look at a turnover on downs. And you'll say here in a second what you said to me and how you looked at it. My thought is this. To me, usually a turnover on downs is cut and dry. It's not like it's a fumble. It's not like it's an interception. A turnover on downs is clear and cut. Is it really necessary for that? I'll ask my question and you can tell me what you said. Why was this thing brought about?
Because a turnover on downs is still a turnover. Turnovers are reviewable. I think this is more a formality than anything else. And I get it. You're right. I would say 9.5 times out of 10, as you said, it's cut and dry. Like it's pretty obvious when there's a turnover on downs. I mean, if it's 3rd and 10 and they don't get to the 10-yard marker, then yeah, it's over. But let's make sure, I guess. I mean, especially if it's a very close play, like sometimes that too can make a difference. Quarterback sneak, for example, 3rd and 1. Did they actually get over the line? Did the quarterback do just enough to break the plane and give them a first down, or is it truly a turnover? So I think it's more along those lines as far as doing a review. I mean, if it's 3rd and 20, for example, and quarterback completely overthrows the receiver, you may not need to review that per se. And I want to believe common sense is going to take over in that regards. But unless I think it's
a fishing expedition.
Well, and again,
it goes to my next point, though. You have said something that actually has changed in what I'm thinking. It sounds, and tell me what you think of this.
Good.
On your thing specifically about a ball getting turned over on a 3rd and short.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like, and I could be wrong, that they're saying, don't worry, Mr. Head Coach. You do not have to challenge that play because we're going to look at it automatically. So they're saving them a challenge potentially.
There you go. So I mean, it's almost too like interceptions are reviewed, touchdowns are reviewed. I mean, to me, it's along those same lines. So I mean, yes, on the surface, like when you first saw that rule, it's like, well, that seems redundant. But when you break it down more like that, and you sort of see what I think is going to be the real reason why they'd be reviewing turnover on downs, that's why it's a turnover. So turnovers are supposed to be reviewed.
Yeah,
now to me that makes all the sense in the world, especially as I said, quarterback sneak, which I'm sure teams would like to try and get away from if possible, but at the same time, they are a key element to the Canadian game. So make sure, did they truly get that first down? Did they? I don't know if they'll do like the NFL and have the chip in the football for things like that, but
I think they already have anyways,
right? But maybe that's something that it works hand in hand with that. We'll have to see it in action, of course, before we can truly say one way or another. But to me, I think it's keeping themselves accountable, and believe me, keeping the referees, the players, everybody, keeping them accountable to what they do is going to help make for a much better gaming experience.
Now, as we know, you can kneel down. They run the clock out, and if a team is leading, they've added not necessarily an extra twist, but you can now kneel the ball to end the game or a half, as long as all. I think this is when people were commenting on this one. I think they missed the word all of the following conditions are met in order for this to be able to be done. Defense doesn't possess a timeout, which mostly in the first half that they will still. If it is first down and the offense wishes to end the game or half, okay, and there's 40 seconds or fewer remaining on the clock. To me, I think it's just something that's been added. You have to meet all three criteria in order to do that.
Yep.
There's never been a real issue in my experience in all the games that I've seen that there's never been, oh, I can't believe they're kneeling the ball. You know what I mean? So
yeah, like I think the idea is to not be like the NFL where like with 2 minutes left in the, after the 2 minute warning, the defense doesn't have any timeouts. They can't stop the clock. That's where people get up in arms over it. I think this is a completely different thing altogether. I think 40 seconds or less. And again, as you said, you got to meet all of those things. Like if the defense has no timeouts, first down, the game's over essentially. Like there's absolutely no possible way
that won't be happening in the first half. That won't be happening in the first half. Teams always have timeouts.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
Although there are a few occasions where coaches have burned their timeout in the first half, and
Or they're taking away because they lost a challenge.
Exactly. So in which case, then it's a moot point as far as I'm concerned. So
here's one dead ball placement, which it's going to have to change next year with the potentially have to change next year with the rule with the shortening of the field. If a kick goes out of bounds to the end zone with no point awarded, or a field goal attempt strikes the goalpost, and no points are scored, the ball will be scrimmaged from the 40. That would not to be looked at next year, I would imagine. I don't know. What did it go to before?
35.
When okay. When it struck the upright. Okay.
When we got the doinks. Yep.
Interesting. So this is kind of when you put the ball when you kick the ball out of bounds in the air on a punt or a kickoff, it goes to the, oh boy. Okay. Team benches. As everybody knows, this is the year where you're going to have teams on opposite sides of the field. The team bench area will be between the 40s on each of the opposite sides. But I think what's interesting, Cliff, is that they're actually throwing some bench violations here, and they said that they're going to be very stern on this. I don't think it's seeing it being much of an issue. Maybe they'll do what the NFL does, and they'll lay out a specific section where teams can stay. I know it won't be the same in all stadiums, but it is what it is. I mean, to me, that's really, it's a rule there because of the changes now where the teams are going to be stationed on at the stadium.
Yeah. And it's funny, you don't see too many bench violations, I find, but there have been a few. For example, like players that are not dressed like for the game have inadvertently gotten involved in the action, and that creates a major problem right there. So I think it's just a simple that the pointing out of that rule is just to re-emphasize the fact that, like, if you're not playing in this game, you stay the hell away from the action, kind of thing. Like, you just stay on the sideline, don't, interfere or anything like that. Like, just, which I think with the teams being on opposite sides of the field will eliminate any possibility to, especially to, like, if teams, for example, like practice roster players or injured guys or anything like that, if they just start beaking off at the opposition in Montreal, you have seen that. Like, we've definitely heard a lot of smack talk between both players and even like players that aren't dressed to play getting mouthy. So this is going to eliminate that altogether. And if, God forbid, they have these players in their civvies happen to get on the field or do something untoward, then yeah, absolutely, that constitutes a penalty.
Yeah. Two others. Roster flexibility. Prior to the game, teams will provide officials with a third ineligible number capable of reporting and lining up in an eligible position. And an ineligible receiver penalty. An incomplete pass will be added to the possible outcomes available to the defending team when an ineligible receiver penalty is called. I find that interesting. I'd have to see it when the rule book comes out. I want to see their example of how that works.
I think that rule's always been in place. I think it's more of a clarification of it. I think it may just been the wording that might have been a little ambiguous, but now this is a little more. I think this kind of goes without saying when it comes to ineligible receiver, but it's okay. The third ineligible number being provided is also an interesting wrinkle. I think that speaks more to the fact that we might start seeing more of a tight end being used or a fullback in that, and there are times too where a member of the offensive line could be an eligible receiver. So could we possibly see two offensive linemen? Could we see possibly more thick sixes in the Canadian Football League as a result of this? Because now you've got essentially another eligible receiver potentially.
It's true.
Or taking or lining up in the backfield as a running back too. I mean, that's. That kind of opens up the playbook just a little bit more potentially, and also gives other players that normally wouldn't be given the ball for any number of reasons, get them a chance to get into the lineup and do something. So I again, this is one of those things where I'd have to see in action. I think it'd be crazy to see, like, say, 2 offensive linemen listed as eligible receivers. I mean, 1 is, kind of crazy, but 2, that's what I mean. That's a very interesting wrinkle that I think now a lot of defensive coordinators are going to have to possibly look into, especially when you talked about like goal line situations and whatnot. Like that really does open up a lot of possibilities, I think, offensively.
Yeah, for sure. Long Victoria Day weekend. I expect to see us this weekend on a couple of lives. Mm-hmm. Stay tuned for everything on social media, and when we do go live, with audio intact.
Listen, if we have to, ladies and gentlemen, if we have to, we will go into a closed off area. I mean, if we even get the slightest little wisp of wind, we're packing up and we'll go inside. We're not going to F around when it comes to this. We learned our lesson. We can't fight Mother Nature because who's going to win that battle. So
exactly.
Yes, by all means, folks, tune in. Stay in touch with our socials. We'll let you know when we're going live, or better yet, subscribe. Hit the notification bell.
Yep.
That way you get notified automatically. Hey, Flightdeck's going live. Flightdeck's doing something, and you tune in. Easy peasy.
Exactly. And it being the 80th, it's something we've talked about. We're still in the works a little bit, but like we do with our draft series, or draft prospect series, Cliff and I are looking at potentially doing a series with alumni this year, with it being the 80th anniversary of the Alouettes being founded. So stay tuned for that, because we have a little bit more details to work out, but we think that we need to give a little bit more props and some more stories out there from alumni from across the years on who made and brought the Alouettes name and made it what it is today. So stay tuned for that. We're really looking forward to doing something like that this year. So,
and not to mention, folks, by all means, stay with us, because at the end of the day, CFL football is back, and we want to bring everything to you. Not just alumni, not just futures, not just anything in between. We want to bring everything to you, folks, as much as possible. So, again, I'll say it before and I'll say it again: like, subscribe, make sure you're following us, make sure you are in tune with us. We want you to be part of the flight crew here at the Alouettes Flight Deck. So by all means, folks, make sure you're paying attention. Make sure you're with us, because that's why we do this show. We don't do it because we're in love of our own voices. We want to provide information and entertainment for each and every one of you listeners and or viewers. So again, it doesn't happen without you. So make sure you are a part of us. Make sure you're with us. Again, like, subscribe, follow, all that wonderful stuff.
Exactly. So stay tuned for all of our socials. We will be seeing you this weekend, and if not, we will also see you next week for the show. So for the final time here tonight, for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.